Back to our Stress YouTube channel. In today's class we'll learn how to make this beautiful asymmetric side ruffle dress with puff sleeve. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. To make this tutorial, I'm going to be working with a princess that's busted. You can actually make it a regular waist that, but I like my blouses, my dresses padded, so that's how I'm going to be working with this type of that. And I chose a princess that against a straight that because one side is going to be an off shoulder while the other side is an asymmetric dress, so I don't want the design to tamper with my dart line. That's why I'm going for a princess dart line for the front, and then for the back I'm just going to go with a regular waist dart. So if you don't know how to draft this princess dart line, the tutorial is already on the channel. So how I was able to achieve exactly what you're seeing here, I have the tutorial already on the channel. So if you don't know how to do this, you can check the tutorial out. So this is just me cutting out my patterns, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this bust dart so that I can take this to my fabric now and cut it out on my fabric. So this my pattern already have side seam allowance, so I'm not going to add any allowance to it. So I left this excess because of this shortage so that I can reshape it to form what it's supposed to be. So now I'm going to bring in my masking tape and then just close that part up, and I'm going to take my ruler to redraw the actual shape that I'm supposed to do. Okay, so now I can cut this out normally. So this is the front. These are my two patterns. These are my two pattern pieces for the front. I'm going to go ahead and cut, but for my back I don't want it separated, so I'm not going to separate it. I'm just going to take my dart when I cut it on my fabric. But if you want it separated also, that was why I made the dart line this long. So you just connect it up to here and then you separate it. But for me it's just going to be like this. I'm going to cut it like this on my fabric, and after cutting it on my fabric I'm just going to take my dart. So now I'm going to set it aside, keep it aside now, so that I will work on the lower part of the dress. So for the lower part, I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 4. So I folded it into 2 first, then I folded it again. So this is my zipper allowance because it's going to have a zipper at the back, and this is going to be my center front, while the open part, this place is closed, so the open part is going to be my center back. So the measurement I used for this, the half length, my half length is 16 inches, so I already deducted the half length. Remember, we have just drafted it earlier. So now you're going to remove that half length before you take your full length measurement. So my full length is 42 inches, so I have 42 here, and then I added 1 inch allowance for hemming. So that's why I have 43 inches here. So it's very simple. It's just like you're drafting your normal regular basic skirt. The next thing is to take your next measurement. So now I have this as my starting point, which is also doubling as my waistline. So the next measurement I'm taking is my hip line, which is 26 inches. So on that point I'm going to rule a line there. Okay, so here I'm going to measure my waistline. The waist I worked with for the half length is 36 inches. 36 divided by 4 is going to give me 9 inches. So I'm going to mark the 9 inches, and then I'm going to add 1 inch allowance for my dart, after which I'm going to add my regular dart or my regular seam allowance of 2 inches. You can add 1 inch or 1.5 inches, but I like to add enough so that I can still trim it off if it's in excess. So now I'll move to my hip line. The hip I'm working with is 46 inches. 46 divided by 4 is going to give me 11.5 inches. So I have 11.5 here, and again I'm going to add 2 inches there. So this is a pencil skirt, so I'm going to deduct like 1.5 inches from what I have here because I want it tapered. I'll put a slit at the back so that I can walk freely. So if I'm deducting 1.5 inches from this, I'm going to have 11.5 minus 1.5. So I'm going to have around 9 10 inches. Okay, so now the 10 inches, I'm going to measure it here, and then I'll add my 2 inches seam allowance to that as well. So it's that simple. Next thing is to just connect all of these measurements together, and then we'll cut it out. So like I said, it's just like drafting your normal regular skirt block. There's really nothing to it. So now I'm going to cut out this pattern that I have here. And then I'll mark my dart. So for my dart, my bust span is 9 inch. My bust span is 9 inches, so I'm going to measure 8 inches. Sorry, 8 inches divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to measure 4 inches here, and then I'm going to take a dart of 1/2 inch on both sides, and then I'll connect it to my dart leg. So it's going to be a 5 inches long dart. Connect it. So I'm connecting the center line like this, and then I'm going to connect each of these dart leg to where my dart stops. So now I'm just going to take everything together so that I can notch that point. This will make it easier for me to take my dart when I get to the sewing machine. So now I'll go ahead and cut the pattern as well. Okay, so I also cut out my patterns. That's the front and back, and I cut it also with the lining. So for the front, I'm using this soft wadding to pad it, and I'll go ahead and use my hot iron to glue it to it. So I'm just going to set my lining pieces aside and work on the main fabric. So after gluing my wadding to it, I'm going to go ahead now and we'll start to sew it. So this is the front, the center front part is going to be cut on foot, so that when you open it up, you have it in full like this. So here I've notched where my under bust is, so that's where I'm going to place my wadding, and I'm going to go ahead now and use the hot iron to glue it to it like this. And then for the sides also, I'm going to remove the pins and also glue my wadding to it. So after gluing the wadding, I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew them together. Like I said, I have the video of the sewing part also on that princess seam tutorial. So if you don't know how to draft a princess dart seam line, if you check it, you will see everything there. So after gluing them together, I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew it round. Also for the back, I don't want this video to be too long. I'm going to take my dart where I have it like this. I'll do the same thing for the lining pieces as well, and then I'll bring it back so that we can create our asymmetric neckline. Okay, so I've gone ahead to join them together, and I have my lining and my plain fabric placed together. So you can see I just pinned them so that it's not going to shift. So I want to create that asymmetric neckline that we have there. So you choose the side that's going to be with the shoulder and the side without the shoulder. So I'm choosing this side to be with the shoulder, and the neck width that I worked with was my 3 inches by 3 inches neckline. So now I want to increase it to 4 inches, so that the one with the shoulder is going to be 4 inches depth. So I have 3 inches already. I'm just going to mark extra 1 inch there, and then you decide where you're going to connect it on this side. So from my shoulder, I'm going to measure around 4 inches, which is here. So the next thing is to take your curved ruler or use your free hand to just connect from that point all the way to the 4 inches like this. I hope you can see the markings that I have there. And then after that, I'm going to arrange it well and cut out my front and back together. Okay, so now I've arranged it well. The next thing is for me to take my scissors now and cut out this asymmetric neckline shape. So now after cutting out this shape that I have, this is what it looks like. You can see that it's now one shoulder. I'm going to remove all the pins, and then I'm going to fix the lining separately and bring it back for us to fix the skirt. So I've gone ahead to line them now. You can see it is fully lined, and then I held my zipper allowance with my pin. So this is what it looks like on the wrong side. You can see that it is neat. I turned it on the side as well, and this is what the right side is looking like. This is the part with one shoulder. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my skirt part. I have gone ahead to hold my dart as well. So this is one of the back So I'm going to sew it to the side that corresponds with each other. I'm not going to be lining the skirt. So if you're going to be fixing the lining for your skirt, you line it separately like this also, then you hold your dart and then you place it. So I'll sew them together like this, and then for the front as well, I'm going to bring in my front and then I'm going to join it together, making sure that the dart corresponds with each other. So now I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew the skirt part and bring it back for us to add our flange to the side and join the side. So for my back, after joining the front and back together, the upper and the lower part together, I'm going to go ahead and fix my zipper so that everything can just be in place before I fix the sides. Okay, so I've added it like this, you can see. So when you're adding it, make sure your dart line, they match each other, just like what we have here. It's very important. And then I've gone ahead to fix my zipper at the back. So let me turn it to the right side so that we'll see it well. Okay, so this is what the neckline looks like. For your back neckline, you make sure that they are on the same straight line. You can see that it just blends with the asymmetric neckline that we have there. So now the next thing is to turn it and sew the sides together, but there is a flange on this side. So to get this flange, to get the radius of the flange, you measure from your waist area all the way to the hem. And for me, I have around 26 inches. So you're going to divide that by 6.28 to get the radius of your flange. So I'm cutting a full circle flare, and you do that by folding your fabric into 4, just like we cut our normal flange. Then you use that measurement. Mine was around 4 inches, so I measured 4 inches here for my radius, and the length of this flare is around 5.5 inches. So I made it 6 inches because I turned this. I cut 2 of these, then I used them to turn each other, then I folded it, then I turned it out and gave it a good press like this. So in my case, I did not use exactly 4 inches. When I divided it, I had around 4 inches, so I just added half an inch to it because I want to just gather a little bit of it. So now I'm going to place it on the side that I want this flange to be. So I'm just going to place it like this, and then I'm going to sew it down. Okay, so you can see that it's in excess, so I'm going to gather the excess like this. So I'm going to sew it down. After sewing it down, I'm going to turn it like this so that I can sew my front to my back on the side. So that's the only thing I want to do to the main bodies. So now the main bodies is ready. The next thing is the sleeve. So the sleeve that I'm adding to this, I have my basic sleeve already. This is the basic sleeve for the one with shoulder, and this is the sleeve for the off shoulder, so you can see it. So these are my 2 sleeves, and for the puffiness that I have on the hemline, I went ahead to cut a long strip of fabric to complete this, and then I'm going to gather this fabric into the hem of this sleeve. Okay, I'm going to gather the fabric into the hem of this sleeve, and then the other hem I've gone ahead to create my channel so that I can pass my elastic to also gather it like this. So it's a very simple sleeve, and this video is already long, so I don't want it too long. I'll go ahead now and gather this into my sleeve and then pass elastic before I fix it to my bodies. So I'll do all of this now, and then I'm going to bring it back to show us what we have. So this is the dress on the mannequin. I've gone ahead to fix the sleeve. This is the sleeve with the shoulder, and this is the off shoulder sleeve that we fixed to it. So I just gathered the fabric here, and then I used my elastic to gather it on the hem. So I have also fixed my flange. You can see it started from the waistline, and then it goes all the way to the hem of the dress. And this is what the full view of the dress is looking like. It's an asymmetric dress, and it's really beautiful. If this is helpful, kindly let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.